Marco!
It's over, Inspector Norm!
But what are you doing?
As you can see, I'm leaving you, Norm!
Marco, you can't abandon your entire family and your fiancée here. This tower could crumble at any second.
No more tower! No other heirs! All of Walter Jones's money is mine!
It's you who killed Walter Jones. I have the proof, Marco. And also Hubert de Nolan.
No crime scene left! No crime left! What do you say to that, Inspector?
You killed your father, Marco.
Farewell, Inspector!
No! Marco!
What's going on, Norm?
It's over, Lorenzo. Get everyone to climb into the balloon carriage. There is no moment to lose. This tower is going to collapse.
Marco, it's horrible.
Yes, Christina. Your boyfriend Marco killed Walter Jones, his own father, and also Hubert de Nolan. I have the proof today. Of course, suspicion first fell on young Baena, who accompanied the victim on the path on the evening of the crime. Baena, who had to rebuke Walter Jones's advances one more time that evening. While one could evoke legitimate self-defense, Baena is responsible without a doubt for Walter Jones falling onto the rocks, and I confess that for a moment I thought that this fall entailed the death of Walter Jones. I was wrong. Walter Jones remained stuck in the rocks a few meters below the curving path, imprisoned in his electric wheelchair but very much alive, calling and signing for help.
It was almost night, and moreover, there was the sound of the waves.
I know all that, Sonia. Let me go on, I beg you. The report from the forensic expert received the next day is categorical. Walter Jones was hit by a .270 caliber short Magnum Winchester bullet in the back. On impact, the victim rolled further down from the initial point of his fall to end up on the sand, where he was found the next morning. The bullet did not go through the body. It was lodged in the sternum after it perforated the right lung. On the day that I arrived, I therefore did not notice anything abnormal. The impact of the bullet was invisible. Walter Jones lay spread on his back, a man weighing almost 500 pounds, and I was in no position to turn him. Baena was not the murderer, and my suspicions turned toward Hubert de Nolan. I became convinced that Hubert de Nolan had made the most of the fact that Mr. Jones was stuck between the rocks and removed the key to his safe that he always wore around his neck. Mr. Jones, sufficiently lightheaded from his fall and weakened by his handicap, could do nothing to stop him. Obviously, Hubert de Nolan's dealings did not exonerate any one of you. In any case, in this business you are all the potential heirs, and therefore have good reason to end the days of the billionaire grandfather, especially if you found out that he'd planned to disinherit you for the betterment of a charming native. Isn't that so, Sonia?
I have nothing to do with my grandfather's death. You know this very well, Norm.
No matter what, my first concern was to find the weapon used for the crime, and I confess that this was not very complicated, because I got my hands on the weapon that corresponded with the projectile found in the body of Walter Jones in his own office. A weapon that, in the hands of a good shot, is perfectly capable of shooting a bullet from the library to a target situated 200 meters below in the shadows. The prints on the weapon condemned Hubert de Nolan. Moreover, he had already taken part in Walter Jones's safaris. He was familiar with this type of firearm and was capable of succeeding with a tough shot. But he was not the only one on this island who knew how to use a hunting weapon. Far from it. And Hubert de Nolan denied it with vehemence. Moreover, yesterday evening he promised me that this morning he would tell me the real identity of the culprit. Alas, this morning the poor man was dead. The murder of de Nolan was grossly disguised as a suicide. Someone did not want him to talk. And then I discovered that there was another person who had broken into the library at the moment of the murder. Someone who used the key card of a former employee who had left the island a while back. Who had stolen Simbi Laktar's card from Lorenzo's drawer and used it to go into the office and then the library at the hour of the crime? Marco, of course. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Marco slipped into gloves to use the crime weapon and shot Walter Jones.
If Marco's fingerprints are not on the weapon, then how can you accuse him, Inspector? How do you explain the imprints of Hubert de Nolan?
De Nolan did take the weapon in his hands, miss, but only to remove the eyepiece and observe the scene on the beach. Walter Jones being pushed by Baena. Walter Jones stranded on the rocks, incapable of moving, seriously shocked, but still alive. Basically, Walter Jones finally at his mercy.
And why, according to you, did he not shoot our grandfather? Nolan had good reason to.
Because he didn't think of it. Because it wasn't useful for him. Because he believed him to be dying on the rocks. What's the good of shooting at someone who's already about to die?
Okay, but Marco then?
Marco was in the room. He saw Nolan look at Walter Jones, and then he saw him hurry out of the room.
To go grab the key to the safe that was around Walter Jones's neck?
Yes, that's it, Billy. Marco had just found out that Walter Jones was his father, that he had raped his mother. He was in a rage. He took the weapon, repositioned the eyepiece, introduced a cartridge. He waited for Nolan to take the key from Walter Jones's neck and leave. Walter Jones was now alone on the rocks. Marco hoisted the weapon, aimed carefully like the good soldier he was. He shot. Walter Jones' body fell down backward and ended its fall further down on the beach.
The proof of all this, Inspector.
As far as his false alibi, it's useless to go there, isn't it, Christina?
No, I think it's right like this, Inspector Norm.
As for the proof of Marco's guilt, here we go. Once the crime was accomplished, he threw the gloves and Simbi Lactar's card in the trash chute. He thus expected to eliminate all traces of his crime. Alas for him, the shredder was conceived for paper and didn't digest the gloves, which remained blocked along with the card in the cogs. The gloves, bought in Moscow, were presumably a gift from Christina and still bore traces of flax oil. This oil is usually used to treat the stalks of precious weapons to bring out the veins in the wood.
You're trying to tell us that the gloves did not leave a trace on the weapon. It's the weapon that left its trace on Marco's gloves.
Yes, Lorenzo, and it's this that incriminates Marco as the murderer of Walter Jones.